Good Friday, everyone. Get ready for a big recruiting weekend at the University of Tennessee. And remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll always get a notification when a new YouTube video pops up. And there'll be plenty Austin Price this weekend when you talk about what Tennessee's got coming in on the recruiting front. Lots of visitors. We'll give you the whole list here in just a bit on this broadcast. But let's look at maybe the five biggest coming in this weekend, and they're on both sides of the ball. And maybe we start with the biggest of all, Austin, on the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I've called him the biggest, recruit left in the class as of this moment, and that's Francis Mauigoa. I mean, and why is he the biggest? He's tight with Nico, Samoan culture, same thing with the Iau Maliavas. It just makes sense that Francis, is important to the offensive class. And hey, you got to have people that can catch the ball from Nico, but if Nico can't get the ball off, it doesn't matter. You got to have guys that can protect Nico. So for me, Francis is a big mauler, and honestly, when you look at his game, Hubs, he looks like he can, play on, both tackle and guard. He offers you a lot of versatility.
Yeah, when you roll the B-roll and look at him there and look at his ability and what he does, what is it that you like about him? You mentioned the versatility. Guard tackle, is he a left tackle, right tackle? Physicality, obviously, is the first thing that jumps out.
No doubt. I mean, you just watch him right here on this particular play. He's playing right tackle right here. But I mean, can get out and move. Watch him move. I mean, like for a tackle, it's 330 pounds. He doesn't move like a 330 pounder. We've seen the video of him, basically free jumping, up several of those pads in the weight room. Kid is a freak athletically, and really, I think it's just scratching the surface of how good he can be. But I mean, if you ask me, what does he play? I think he probably is a right tackle and or a guard, but more so a right tackle in this offense.
Well, and when you look at him, he plays against great competition playing at IMG Academy. But the biggest question is, to me, distance from home. When you're talking about a guy from American Samoa, how realistic is Tennessee? I know he doesn't live at home now. A lot of people talking about potentially USC. Where do you factor in some of those things when you talk about, Tennessee and maybe how relative it is to his family and distance from home?
Well, I think the biggest thing, Hubs, is how, what decision does the family make? I mean, are they going to come stateside or are they going to stay in American Samoa? Because if they're going to stay down there, it's a lot easier to get to Los Angeles, even though it's, not right around the corner, than it is to get to Gainesville or Miami or Tuscaloosa or Knoxville. Whereas if they're going to come stateside to watch him play his college ball, then I don't think it matters. I think he can go to, North Dakota State at that point. Like, I think that, the family's going to try to settle in, not necessarily in the city where he's playing, but in the region. And I think, again, having another Samoan here, Tennessee's had that before. They had that run of Toina and Mahalona and several of those players over the years. JT Mapu, they potentially could have a nice little run here when you look at Mauigoa, Iau Maliava, and then Tausili, the linebacker that Tennessee is recruiting as well.
Yeah, and it's no coincidence that Nico was in town when Francis was in for his unofficial, and he's going to be back in town when Francis is here for his official. That's not by just random happenstance, right?
No, that's by design. In fact, Nico's taking his official visit this weekend. I'll tell you another one that's important, and we're just staying on the offensive line, and that's Sham Umarov. Really, I think a specimen, 6'6", 310. Is he a little bit of maybe a project? I mean, sure. I mean, he's not. I don't think he's a full blown project. I think he's just got some areas he's got to continue to refine his game. But he's got length, Hubs, and when you're playing tackle, they don't make them many. They don't make many at 6'6", 310, and that can move like Sham.
Yeah, when you look at him on tape, that's the first thing that jumps out at you is just how well that he moves. Maybe he's a little bit raw. Maybe he's not as polished, but again, he's got power and he's got long arms. He's got tackle length arms. And when you talk to any college coach out there on the offensive line, what do they want to start with, right? They want to start with a tackle body because it's a lot easier to end up sliding a guy inside than it is trying to turn a guard into a tackle. Those long arms have everybody excited about him, regardless of how refined he is or isn't right now from a footwork standpoint.
100%. I mean, just look at the schools that are recruiting him, namely Georgia, as your biggest competition. But, I think Tennessee's slightly ahead of the Bulldogs right now. Would Georgia take him? Yes, but I do think that they probably like a couple of other tackles better. But they like bigger offensive linemen. Tennessee likes big offensive linemen too, but they like them to be athletic. And when you look at Stanton Ramil, When you look at Francis, you look at Lucas Simmons, and specifically with Sham, all of them are athletic and all of them can move, because to play in this offense, to play at the pace they want to play at, Brent, you have to be in good shape and you have to be a decent athlete, and all those guys are.
Yeah, and Tennessee's got need for multiple bodies at that position. They want to hit big at the offensive line. They're not just looking for one guy. They're looking for multiple guys on the offensive line, particularly those tackle bodies. All right, it's not all about the offense. There's some defensive guys here in town this weekend as well. And one of them closer to Tennessee, just across the line, and Cristian Conyer. This is an interesting recruitment, AP, because this seemed like it was all Tennessee, and it's been all Tennessee for a long time. He goes to Kentucky for an official visit. Things are dicey. This is a big weekend for Tennessee and Cristian Conyer, right?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, when you think about where things were a month ago and where they are right now, it is so different than late April. It's by no means going to be an easy deal with Cristian Conyer. Really, does a nice job of playing on both sides of the ball. You see him at receiver right here for South Warren there in Bowling Green. They get him the ball in space, but specifically in college, he's going to be a defensive guy. And so, he has a great relationship with Willie Martinez. I love the way that Willie has recruited him. I think Tennessee's got the final say here. I think they've got a chance to really kind of steal the momentum back, so to speak. So we'll see. I think this weekend it will be big, but I think that having the right people in town, including a guy like John Slaughter, those two hit it off here at Rocky Top of Palooza at the Memorial Day recruiting event. They've continued to talk. Several guys in town that he knows, and I think that goes a long way to making him feel comfortable and getting that momentum back from Kentucky.
Yeah, the interesting thing for both of these schools is Tennessee has been wanting Cristian Conyer to get in the boat for 3 months, and he said, he's going to wait to July. He wanted to do it in July around his mom's birthday. Kentucky said, hey, you got to give us a look before you make any decision. Tennessee said, I don't want you to visit Kentucky. He visits Kentucky. Now Kentucky's begging him not to visit Tennessee.
Yeah,
he's made it very clear. He's going to see both schools officially. Tennessee gets the last say. This has been Tennessee for a while, but Tennessee is trying to get some momentum back after the visit he had at Kentucky this past weekend. So we'll see what happens there. Defensive back is a big priority in this class, and it's not just about Cristian Conyer. John Slaughter, as you mentioned, but corners, Austin. Interesting recruitment to me when you look at Jordan Matthews and where he's at, being from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, high-profile 4-star guy. He's 6'1", 165, kind of built like an LSU corner is a little bit, but yet I think there's a real chance he leaves the state. Tennessee's positioned themselves, I won't say nicely there, but they have a real fighting chance in this one, it feels like. To me, Austin, you may feel differently, but this is not your typical maybe uphill battle right now to try to get a kid out of the state of Louisiana. At least to me, it doesn't feel that way.
Well, not right now. Now, what's it like come, October, November, December? We'll see. Right now, I think LSU's running third behind Texas, who is the perceived leader here, and then Tennessee, who he has a lot of interest in. And so, when I kind of, look at this recruitment, Tennessee, if they're going to land Jordan Matthews, they've got to have a really big weekend. The family's excited coming into this one. They've got a really good relationship with the staff. And honestly, they were calling Tennessee early on and because they had interest in the ball. So I think that's a good sign. They're really excited to get up here and see it. Again, Texas, because he's been there, is the school that right now kind of, it would be the perceived favorite. And I understand why. But Tennessee's got their shot this weekend. We'll see how they do. Big, long corner. Tennessee's got 3 corners on campus this weekend: Cristian Conyer, Jordan Matthews, and Jakeem Jackson. That's, to me, the top 3 on Willie Martinez's board. This is a big weekend. You got to land somebody out of that trio, if not multiple guys.
Yeah,
I don't mean this weekend, but long term.
Yeah, you certainly can't go 0 for 3 with your top 3 priorities. That's not where you want to be in your recruiting class. So we'll see what happens with those 3 this weekend. We're going to skip back over to the offensive side of the ball to kind of wrap up sort of the 5 that we're profiling today. You mentioned protecting Nico and how important that is. He's got to have a weapon or two to throw it to. Everybody knows Carnell Tate goes to Ohio State this weekend. That's a guy off the board for Tennessee. That's not the only wide receiver they're recruiting. Over in the state of North Carolina, where they're trying to gain some traction, a wide receiver over there that you like, that obviously Tennessee likes as well.
Yeah, and credit Kelsey Pope. He's done a nice job with Nathan Leacock. Leacock's big now. He's 6 foot. He's over 200 pounds now, and has good speed for his size. So, Nathan's coming in here feeling like Tennessee is the school he's most interested in. This is a real chance to, I won't say slam the door, but take a huge, huge step towards landing Nathan Leacock. And so, when you watch him, play, he can play inside, which he's doing right here, but he's mostly an outside guy. But he can run, Hubs. I mean, he runs really well for a guy his size. And, you watch his running motion, not to say production-wise, but running motion, very similar, kind of high need to Marcus Nash. This is a kid that, out of Millbrook High School, likes Tennessee a lot. And, again, I think he's coming in thinking this could be my future football home if things go well this weekend.
Who's the biggest competition for Tennessee with Leacock right now?
NC State is probably the biggest competition. Michigan, another school that it has a lot of interest. They like bigger receivers up there in the Big Ten. But it certainly feels like that, if things go well, I'm not saying he's committing this weekend.
Right.
Don't mistake that. But I think you take a huge step towards potentially a decision in July or August for this young man.
Yeah, and again, you mentioned it, the length, the size, the height. Tennessee likes their outside receivers to be big, tall guys. They're fine with the slot guy being a smaller guy, but they really like their outside guys in Josh Heupel's system to be tall, rangy guys. It doesn't matter if you look at Oklahoma, you look at Missouri, you look at Central Florida. It doesn't matter where you look at. The outside guys have some height. The slot guys can be built in different ways, but they want height who can run on the perimeter, which is why this staff likes Nathan Leacock a lot. All right, we mentioned that it's not just those 5. This is Tennessee's biggest official visit weekend to date. Let's look at the entire list that's coming in this weekend for Tennessee. Besides the 5 we just mentioned, what stands out to you on this list? Who stands out to you? Who's it big for? What's the overriding picture here of this recruiting weekend?
Well, balance. I mean, you look 6 guys on offense, 7 guys on defense, corners, offensive linemen. Tyree Weathersby, somebody that Tennessee's got a lot of traction with. Spoke to him on Wednesday. Again, he's another guy that's coming here thinking like Tennessee with a good showing could take a huge step in my recruitment. Hunter Osborne, rumored for Clemson. But Clemson don't let kids that have told them they're in take visits. So the fact he's here means Tennessee's got a shot here to maybe steal back some of the momentum that the Tigers kind of curried when he went over there in early June. Jeremiah Thielander, that's a Tennessee-North Carolina battle. John Slaughter, that one's been, Tennessee's to lose for a long time. I think a decision is coming sooner rather than later for him. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Ethan Davis, you just got to keep loving that guy up. He's nearly a top 100 player on Rivals, a kid that honestly, you just cannot afford to lose. And so you want to make sure he feels the love. The interesting one there for me, Hubs, is Jeremiah Cobb. Where does Tennessee stand for the running back from Alabama? It's kind of been Auburn, Clemson, and then Tennessee. What kind of move does Tennessee make this weekend? They have the running back, Will Stallings, committed out of Las Vegas. He's a bigger back. Cobb is different. He's a shiftier guy. They would kind of be a nice yin to the yang, a nice thunder and lightning type punch. Can Tennessee make a huge move with him this weekend?
Yeah, big weekend on both sides of the ball for Tennessee for sure when you look at that visit list and obviously the guys that we profiled here. And Austin, the timing of this is important for Tennessee when you look at last weekend before you go into the dead period. Not sure that you're going to get a ton of news in terms of guys committing this weekend. That doesn't seem to be the case with most official visits. But July is going to be important when you look at that list. Yeah. Lots of guys on the docket to make potential decisions in July or the early part of August. Tennessee needs to put their best foot forward this weekend.
Yeah, the next 45 days are going to be big. I said that on our podcast the other day. What's Tennessee's class look like when we reach August 5th? I think you'll have a real telltale sign as to what either happened good or happened bad for Tennessee in recruiting during the summer months by August 5th.
Yep, and we'll see what that looks like in terms of what Tennessee can get done to help with that traction in July by what they get done this weekend. Remember, subscribe, like us on YouTube, keep track with us that way, as well as at Volquest.com. We will have all the very latest from all these visitors on Sunday as they wrapped up their visits in Knoxville. So you want to keep it locked into Volquest.com all weekend long. For Austin Price, I'm Brent Hubbs. Have a great rest of your Friday, everybody.